recorded, and we can get that emailed off to you either probably tomorrow or the next day. But anyways, what we're going to do today is we are just going to walk through Syncro. And I'm going to show you the amazing things about having an RMM embedded with your PSA and different ways that you can make your process as efficient as possible, and find different ways to make more money, do it much faster. So I'll just be kind of I usually start going through customers. I head over to the ticketing system, talk about invoicing, and then dive into the RMM section. I do have my Q&A box out as well as my chat box. So wherever you would prefer to post questions, you can use either the Q&A or the chat box. Either one is fine for me. Feel free to ask questions at any time. I'll either address them as they come or towards the end. So either way works just fine. So to begin, I am going to go ahead and hop into a customer here. So I'll just take a look at Larry, and we'll go to, kind of just talk about customer detail page. One thing when, either a customer calls, you have to quickly look at information. There is a lot right at your fingertips here, right when you're looking at the overview for a customer. One thing to mention is we've moved our custom fields. They used to be kind of over here on the left-hand side, but we've moved custom fields front and center on the customer information page. Custom fields are incredible. They can be anything that you want. So out of the box, they're not predefined. These are things that you totally customize. They can be anything from a text box, they can be a link, but what I like to show off is they can be encrypted. We do have what it's called Password Vault built into Syncro. So you can head over to your App Center, set up Password Vault. Once you do that, you have the ability to set up encrypted custom fields. So you actually have to enter your Password Vault password to be able to unlock that information. We can go ahead and collapse those here. You'll see you've got all of your customers' ticketing information, estimates, invoices. Anywhere that you see this little magnifying glass, it does act as a quick view modal, so you can take a payment really quickly without even having to go into the invoice. You can see a little bit of information regarding the invoice without having to actually go to that specific invoice. So again, saving you time, saving you click time. You can create contracts for your customers. You also can see all of their associated assets. So one thing to mention too, again, this quick view modal on an asset is incredible. You could launch straight into a Syncro Live session from the customer page. So just seeing the different ways, having that RMM embedded with the PSA, it is pretty phenomenal. You can run a script, you can change a policy, or you can create a ticket from there. Of course, there's quite a bit more information if you kind of go through everything. For the sake of time, I want to just highlight a few other things here. You can create appointments for your customers. You can create appointments straight from this customer page, but you can also do it from the ticket so that the ticket is actually linked to an appointment. But we do have an integration with both Office 365 and Google Calendar. So it is a two-way sync as well for those appointments. We also have an online customer portal. So you can actually grant access to your customers to their portal, and they have access to all of this information. They can see financial history, they can see their open invoices, tickets, that sort of thing. If you have integrated with one of our payment processors, they can actually pay their invoices straight from their portal. They also have the ability to approve or decline estimates from here. You've got they can see their assets. You can even, if there are managed devices, if they click on an asset, you could even make scripts available for them to run from their customer portal, which I think is pretty fantastic. You can also see that you can create documentation that's viewable from their portal. So these links just pop out into this wiki page for them. All right, so that's the customer portal. A couple other things I guess to mention here, just when you're looking at customer management, is you can also manage your contact information. So from here, you can have everybody in the organization and they can have their own individual custom fields as well. All right, I'm seeing a question here, so let me see here. Okay, so the question is, we don't have a native integration with Office 365 when it comes to contacts. You can achieve this through Zapier currently. And so, I'd be happy to request that it be, more natively built in, but yes, it does currently work with our Zapier integration. Okie doke. So from here, just to talk through a few things. There are multiple ways that tickets can be created within Syncro. So from your customer portal, the customer can create a ticket for you from there. They can use their system tray icon. You can actually embed a widget onto your website if you want people, if you have website traffic and you want people to be able to create tickets from there. Let's see, you can have specific RMM alerts automatically creating tickets for you, that sort of thing. You can set up a mailbox within Syncro where you can have your customers, automatically send either help at or support at email, and it will automatically create a ticket for them. So there are, as you can see, just multiple ways that you find what works best for you and how you want your tickets to be created. For the sake of the demo, of course there's going to be those times that people call you. You can go new to a ticket from here. You could hit new from here. There's several ways that tickets can be created. One thing I like to highlight though is just going back to that idea of why not fully utilize the RMM being embedded with the PSA, because you can create a ticket straight from the assets, so the asset's already attached to the ticket. So you can create a new ticket from here. It'll save you some time later where you don't have to add the asset to the ticket. One thing to mention here, as you can see, I've got 3 required fields when I'm going to create this ticket. We call these workflows in the admin section. So for example, I'm just going to say this is a fake webinar ticket, and these issue types are totally customizable. I'm going to say, hey, it's remote support, and maybe this person called and let me know that they had a virus. So those are my 3 required fields, because while I'm on a demo or a webinar, my main purpose is I want to get a ticket created as quickly as possible. However, you can change these fields. You can create, in a workflow, they're called workflows, you can absolutely customize what information you want to collect and what information you want to have required as well. So just to let you know, there you can go through quite a big process when you're creating tickets, especially when someone's calling in, because there's nothing worse than you're looking at a ticket and you don't have all the information you need, which means you're going to have to then contact the customer. And so to hopefully minimize the back and forth, you can have required fields. You can even say if it's a certain type of ticket, if it's website work, I need to get their host and domain information, that sort of thing. Okay, so a couple, I mentioned that the asset is already attached to the ticket. I'm going to go ahead and create it from here just so we can dive in and take a look. As you can see, just like with customers, custom fields are going to be right here front and center for you. So since I chose that it was website work, it included those custom fields. The type I mentioned is totally customizable, and you can also add whatever statuses. If there is something, if there's an additional step in your process, you can add things to the status from there. The other thing I love is worksheets within tickets. So from here, the example that I gave, maybe this person called and say, I've got a virus on my computer. You can add a worksheet. These are predefined worksheets that you create. Now, for example, my virus removal worksheet, it acts as similar to a checklist. It can be a drop down, it could be text field, or it can just be these check boxes. As you can see, it's going to timestamp, and it's going to say who performed that task. It's an awesome way if you're jumping back and forth from tickets to know where you left off. It's also great when you have multiple texts and you want to make sure everyone's on a cohesive plan. Great training tool as well. Let's see here. The question that I had was, is there a recorded webinar for workflows? Which I don't think we have a recorded webinar specifically for workflows, but I think that's actually a really good idea. I like that. And yes, the worksheets work on the mobile app. That was another question. But as we scroll down, there's a few ways that you can track your time within a ticket. So one way is you can just hit the play button. So it's going to start tracking your time here. You can have multiple timers going at one time. So you can be hopping back and forth. So say on this ticket, you start your timer and maybe you want to run a script that's cleaning up temp files. So that's going to take some time. So then you hop to another ticket. You can leave that timer going. And it's easy to toggle back and forth. When you're done working on the ticket, you can simply hit the stop button. It's going to add it as a labor line item here. You can view the log here. You can say, you can manually enter the time. Hey, I was there for an hour. I did some stuff, and I'm going to add this to the ticket. As you can see, you have the ability to either charge the time or not. So the reason that this is so important, of course, is that everybody has a different billing model. So you might have the type of billing model that basically maybe at the end of the month, you just compile up all of those pending ticket charges, add it onto a reoccurring invoice. So for that case, you're going to probably be hitting charge time on all of these labor line items. You might have a billing model where you're billing per endpoint. You still want to be able to track your time because you want to report against that, possibly renegotiate contracts, but you don't necessarily want this showing up on an invoice. You don't want to be showing that you're charging time. So you do have the option whether you're going to charge that time or not. Again, I mentioned the assets already attached to the ticket, and then you can communicate with your customer through the ticket. So whatever you decide to type here, I have from my settings, I made it so that by default, my communications went to a private note. This is customizable also, so you can have it default that it is a public note. You have the ability to email your customer. Again, this is what a private note looks like. A public note would be viewable from the ticket. Like if your customer logged into their portal, looked at their ticket, they'd be able to see that public note. In addition to this, you can enable text messaging, and there would be 2 additional options, SMS and then SMS plus email. But this is also the third way that you can track your time. So you can say, hey, I was there for 30 minutes. And you can choose if you want to charge it or not from here. So that's the third way that you can track your time within a ticket. Anything that you communicate with your customer, it will log it down here, as well as if it's an internal note. It's going to highlight it in yellow. It's a good way to know this is internal only, and everyone can see that right away. If we head back up here to the top of the ticket, I like to head into this add or view charges. This is a really great way of knowing what would be converted to an invoice if you took this ticket and just hit make invoice. You can see that I had a total of 3 labor line items, but I only hit charge time on 2 of them, which is why you're only seeing 2 here, because this is what would actually show up on an invoice if you converted this ticket to an invoice. You can also add things to the invoice from your inventory. So we have a full products and services within Syncro. So if you did sell hardware or material or that sort of thing, you can have a full-fledged, it's an incredibly robust inventory system within Syncro. So you can add things to your ticket from here too. So it's going to pull from your inventory. Again, if you were keeping and maintaining stock, it's even going to tell you, this is back ordered. You can have things automatically creating purchase orders. So it's pretty incredible. You can also manually add things here. So if it's something you just ran out to the store, grabbed a cable or something like that, you do not have to add it into your inventory to be able to add it to the ticket. You can absolutely just manually enter items here as well. But this is a really nice view, knowing if I converted this ticket, if this was possibly a break fix type of situation, you could simply just make that an invoice. Okay, so speaking of that, I am going to head over to invoicing right now. Keep the questions coming. You can either use the Q&A or the chat box. Either one works just fine. But we'll head over to invoicing now. So within Syncro, invoicing is very robust but super straightforward. So you can create an invoice from an estimate. You can create one from a ticket. They can be just created one-off, but you can create reoccurring invoices. So of course, this is most important for managed service providers. The best case scenario is that you have monthly reoccurring revenue coming in, and we try to make that as easy as possible and even automated here. So let's go ahead and hop into a reoccurring invoice just so we can look at it. So of course, you can name it whatever you want. You can choose how often you want to be billing your customer. If you're billing in arrears or in advance, you can choose the next time you want that reoccurring invoice to go out. I love this setting. You have the option to have Syncro automatically create a ticket for you before the contract expires. Hopefully that would give you plenty of time to renegotiate if needed. Let's see here. Good question, Nathan. I will get to that in just 1 second. There are some additional settings here. So you have the option, of course, to, once this invoice is generated, it automatically emails that off to the customer. If you have your payment processor integrated, there's additional settings. You can automatically charge card on file, that sort of thing. So just to mention, when you do integrate with the payment processor, there are additional options as well. We do support prepaid or block hours, and this setting, it'll have Syncro automatically reset those hours each month. And then this is a really amazing setting. So again, if you had the billing model where basically you bill your customer one time a month, but it combines all the tickets or all of the labor items that you did throughout the month and puts it on one invoice, This is a great setting for you. So it'll automatically do that. You don't have to go back and go through your tickets and, create an invoice one-off. You can have this automated. In addition to this, you have different reoccurring line item types. So a standard line item, that's going to be something like, for example, block hours. It's going to pull from your inventory. So maybe it's a monthly maintenance fee or something like that. So it's anything that's like you're inputting the quantity, that kind of thing. We also have a data backup line. So this is specific to our Cloudberry integration. This will actually pull your Cloudberry user information as well as the package and charge them appropriately. We also have these last two are ways to dynamically count endpoints for your customers. So for example, this would be an option. You can either use just the asset type itself. So for example, if you charged if you had all workstations and you charged the same thing for anything that had a Syncro device installed, you could use the asset type. It's going to dynamically count up how many Syncro devices this customer has at the end of the month and charge them appropriately. If you wanted to set it up that you charged one thing for servers and another thing for workstations, you can use our saved asset search. And I will show you that when I head over to the assets in RMM. But this way, it gives you the ability to charge something for servers, like you could say $100 per server per month and enter that as a line item. And then you could create an additional line item for just your workstations. So you have some really neat options when it comes to a dynamic counter. In addition to that, you can also bill based upon your policies. So I'm not sure if you've noticed this yet, but anytime you create a policy within Syncro, and I will go through policies here in just a second, anytime you create a policy, it'll create an inventory item for you. So you can actually bill off of the policies that are applied to devices. So this is another way. Hey, for this customer, any device that has monitoring plus antivirus, I want to bill them $29.99 a month. So another way to dynamically count up endpoints is using that line item type. Okay, so that's kind of a quick overview of reoccurring invoices. The question that I had was, how are inventory items added? Can they be bulk uploaded or updated from a feed? Yes. So good question. From over here, inventory, products and services is our inventory. And you absolutely, as long as you have the ability to, wherever your inventory lives now, if you can get it into a CSV file, we can bulk upload it, we can bulk update it as well. And that actually, all of that information, if you go to our help center, you can just actually, I can't remember, I think if you just type in import, like you can look at how to import your customers, but you also have bulk, see here, where is it? Inventory, import, CSV, breakdown, and bulk update. So not only, we have a great article, it'll also show you exactly how to set up your CSV file to upload that. Okay, so let's see. Another question, does it do part month billing? So does that mean bi-monthly, like every 2 weeks, or is that what you mean by that? Dun, dun, dun. Oh, for the RMM counters? Yeah, let's look here. Because I think, let me think about that. That's a really good question. I would have to test that, actually. I will have to test that and let you know. Because, of course, you can choose. I think there is like in here, your frequency. You can choose like bi-monthly. Do we have bi-monthly? Weekly, monthly, bi-weekly. So yeah, it would be bi-weekly, like every 2 weeks. But if you're using the RMM package counter, I am not positive. I would have to double check. I don't know if it would automatically prorate that for you. So let me find out. Good question. Okay. Couple things I just want to make sure I mention before I head over to the assets in RMM is we have a great documentation center. So from here, it's essentially a way to create wiki pages. If I go to just new page here, you can see how simple it is to create these. They can be anything. You could create just an internal page. Maybe this is for your own business. When you're new hires, what do you do? That kind of thing. Or you can have internal wiki pages that are specific to a customer. So when you bring up a customer page, there will be a link for this wiki page, but your customer would never have access to it. You also have the ability, from when I showed you from the customer portal, if you did customer portal and then you attached it to a customer, this would be a viewable only for Larry. But the final option is you can create wiki pages that are viewable for all customer portals. So you have quite a few options here, and you have these great tags and things like that. So it's essentially kind of like a Word document or a Google Doc that you can create, and it houses it very nicely, and you can have it internal and external as well. Okie doke. So I'm going to head over into the RMM section now so we can kind of take some time to dive into that. So from here, you've got a lot of information at your fingertips. So you've got 5 computers with alerts. That's clickable. You can go straight to that page and see all of the computers that are having issues. You also have some active metrics pulling here. So these are all clickable as well. So if you want to go to the device that has the event log error, you can click there. But I also like to mention that we do have this alert section too. So in the admin section, you can customize these tabs, by the way. And you can customize what's in your drop-down box. But if you go to alerts, this is another way of looking at your active alerts. It's more of a list format. So you can see right away, if there's tickets associated with these RMM alerts, you can go obviously straight to that ticket. The other amazing thing is that there was not a ticket already created. It would give you the option to create one from here. You can also view the alert, or you can mute or delete the alert from this screen. Okay, so just mentioning that's another way to kind of look at your active alerts and then decide what to do with them from there. One thing to mention here, since we just left reoccurring invoices, this is where you can go to create your saved asset searches. So if you wanted to build the example that I gave, something for servers and something for workstations, you can create these saved asset searches from here. So, I mean, it's very granular. You might use this, hey, I want to see what devices have this installed application because I want to run a script en masse to uninstall. You do have the option to run just searches as well, so you could perform actions in bulk. One other thing I do like to mention too, if you go to more here, you can see mailer. We actually have a setup where you can send mass mailers. You could use mailers that were, actually, let's just go into it. I want to show. Okay, so from here, like you can see, we have one already set up and one's actually running and enabled. That's a 2-week follow-up after, a ticket was closed or resolved. It'll send an email. How are things going? But what I want to show you is you can create a custom campaign. So you can use like a triggered mailing. You could do a one-time blast, that sort of thing. It's a really great, you can add images, you can create whatever email you want, but this is what I think is so cool. So for example, you can send an email based upon your saved asset search. So say you want to send an email to everyone that has a server because you're doing maintenance on Sunday. So this is a really, really great way to quickly notify end users of certain things as well. Okay, so that's mailer. But back here, if we look at down here, you're getting a list of all of your assets. You can absolutely filter this. You can filter it by customer site. You can filter by asset type. So I've mentioned asset types a couple times now. Within Syncro, if you install the agent onto a device, by default, it's a Syncro device. You can absolutely manually create whatever asset type you want. Maybe you want to house the information for the router or be able to build tickets against it. So you can create whatever asset type you want, but if it has the agent and you're monitoring it, it's a Syncro device by default. If we scroll down here, you can see you've got columns here. These are customizable. So if there are certain things here that you don't care about seeing at first glance, you can get rid of them. So you can totally customize, and again, it's super granular. But if we go here, I'll also mention, of course, if the headers are in blue, they're totally sortable that way. You can see that we are looking at Syncro devices. They're managed devices. You can tell if they're online or offline by these indicators here. Again, just this quick view is one of my favorite things. You can launch right into a Syncro live session, run a script, change your policy, or create a new ticket. So we're going to go into Syncro live really quickly. I did notice, I think I have a question. Let me see. You don't have alerts in your tabs. So yeah, Sergey, you can go to your admin section and tabs customization and add alerts to that. But for Syncro Live, so by default, it's going to take you to the task manager with the ability to stop processes here. You also have access to the system information. You have the ability through the file system to upload, download, transfer files from there. You've got your remote desktop connection. It is unattended access. What I have up here on the screen is showing if your customer were to go to their system tray icon and right click here and go to support portal and they weren't portal users, this is what they get. They have the ability to create a ticket for you, which is essentially what you want. You want them to be able to reach out to you in a very simple and automated way. A ticket would be created, it would be attached to this asset already, so it's pretty phenomenal. The other thing to mention is, since it is unattended access, you do have the ability to pop on a session indicator and let them know you've started a session. This up here acts as basically a clipboard for copy paste from your machine to theirs. And then you have a terminal. So whether it be command line or PowerShell, you can start this terminal and be working things in the background from there. All right, so that's just a brief overview of Syncro Live. Let's go ahead and go into an actual device detail page. One thing to mention here, again, there's a lot of information at first glance, but a couple things that I think are notable. Here, the policy, you can change a policy on an asset at any time. It doesn't require an uninstall and then a reinstall of the agent. You can simply change the policy and it will automatically sync and take on those new settings. But just to mention, so this, this has the base package on this device. So it's going to be probably a little bit limited on what we're monitoring. It's got an activity feed, of course. You have your asset information. This does pop out and give you additional information. But if you go through these sections, you'll see most of these sections are defined by the policy that's applied to it. So like you'll see, okay, I've got 2 triggers here. I mean, this is because this is a base policy. So if you wanted to add more triggers, you do that on a policy level. If this policy had antivirus installed, MCSoft specifically, MCSoft would populate here. So you'd be able to view threats and scans and things like that straight from this section. I'll talk a little bit more about the differences between MCSoft and BitDefender when we're looking at policies, but this is where MCSoft will populate. You can also run scripts on an asset level. So from here, you can see if a script has ran, you can see if it's succeeded or failed. You also would be able to see if there was anything pending, and you can add a script to the queue from here. So whether it be a one-time script or a script running on a schedule, you have the ability to do that from here. From the system checks, if you go to add a check here, whether it be a ping or an HTTP check, you can enter your remote host information. You can have it check every so often, notify, and rearm from here. You have an up-to-date active installed applications list. So we even have a notification setting in our admin section if you want to be notified if your customers are installing new applications. Finally, we have Windows patches. So again, I'm going to go through Windows patches in much more detail on a policy level, but it makes a lot more sense when you see what it looks like from an asset too. So you can see missing patches on an asset level. You could go ahead and install all missing patches if you wanted to. You can go through individually as well. You also have access to everything that's been recently installed as well on an asset. Okay, so leading off there, I'm going to head over to policies now, just so that we can kind of come full circle now. So you've seen what an asset, like all the details look like on an asset, but this policy is what's populating all of those fields. So for example, if we kind of just take a look at policies, one thing to mention here is that we do give you policies by default, but in no way do you have to keep these policies. You can absolutely rename them, you can clone them, you can wipe them clean and start totally fresh. So I just like to mention that right off the bat. These are examples, but in no way is this saying this is how you should monitor your devices. We have just recently added this uninstall code. This used to be more on a global scale, but now you can add an uninstall code on a policy level, which I think is awesome. These are your organically built-in triggers. So for example, that device that we were just looking at, I think it just had these 2 triggers, enabled, but you absolutely have the ability to enable all of these. we also have event log policy alerts. So this just kind of opens the door wide open to monitoring. We do give you some presets. So for example, if you wanted to do some more extensive hard drive monitoring, you'd be able to see all of the event IDs here on the left-hand side that we would trigger on if you had this preset applied. But you also have the ability to create your own event log policies. So for example, if you wanted an alert when there were failed logins, all you have to do is know the event log ID that reports to the Windows event log, and you can create your own policy from here. So this is pretty phenomenal. You can create essentially whatever alerts you want. You also have the ability to set up CPU and memory usage alerts here. If you have, of course, if you had monitoring servers and you want to be notified if that asset went offline, this is a great indicator for you there. And then here's Windows updates. So I'm going to go ahead and click here and create a new one so we can kind of look at what that means. If you go to new management policy from here, you have the ability to select categories to run on specific schedules. So for example, let's say I want security and critical updates to patch, maybe I want them to patch daily. And then if it requires a reboot, this is how I want Syncro to respond to that reboot. Now, you also have the ability to apply more than one Windows Update Management policy to the master policy that you're working on. And the use case there is maybe you want each category running on a different schedule, because it's very, very likely that security and critical updates you would have running totally on a different schedule than feature and definition updates, for example. So you can create more than one policy. You could create essentially one for every category if you wanted to. But by leaving a category without a schedule, that's essentially saying you want that category. All patches that are included in that category would now become blocked, and they will show up as a missing patch on an asset level. So that's why on the device that we were looking at, there were so many missing patches. So from here, once you've created your Windows update policies, you can add them here. And again, you could have one for each category, just as long as they don't contradict each other. You can add as many of these as you want to the master policy that you're working on. You also, let's see here. I have a few questions, so I want to make sure I'm not going to skip over anything. So our Windows updates are working phenomenal. And then, but the question was, does it control updates on home versions of Windows as well? I actually think that the home versions are the only versions that we're not currently supporting right now. I can double check that, but I don't think we're currently supporting home versions. Okay. Windows 10 seems to always need update run several times. How does Syncro manage this? I guess I think, Nathan, for that, I would need a little bit of a, I guess I might need more information. When you say it needs to update or run or update run several times, I think I just need a little bit more information. So, I mean, our Windows management is really phenomenal, and we do continue to add things to it, add functionality. So yeah, if you do have any other additional questions, happy to answer those. From here, we also do have third-party application patch management as well. So you can see if you go new application patch management here, you can see a list of all of the applications we can manage here on the left-hand side, and then you can choose how you want Syncro to respond to those. From here, so you can create as many of those policies as you'd like. Once you've created them, they're now going to be in this drop down, so you can add them to the policy that you're working on. From here, you can choose if you want to use BitDefender or MCSoft. So BitDefender is available once you have a paid Syncro account, then this section will become available. How it works is BitDefender is powered through their Gravity Zone portal. So if you enable BitDefender, it is gonna install BitDefender upon Syncro installation, and then that asset is gonna show up in the Gravity Zone portal where you can apply antivirus settings to it from there. The main difference between BitDefender and MCSoft is there is that separate pane of glass with Gravity Zone. MCSoft is 100% built in here to Syncro, so you can enable it. It's going to silently install. You can choose the scan schedule. You can choose, how you want surf protection to act, how you want file blocker to act. So all of your settings are right here within Syncro. So those are the kind of the main differences between the two. Then you have your system tray menu. So you do have the ability to customize that. So you can absolutely, it's the little Syncro Octo by default. You can absolutely brand your own icon from the admin section. And then you can also customize what the right click does. By default, the right click will send your customer to the portal with the ability to create a ticket. You can choose if you want to just hide that system tray altogether, or you can override it and you can start adding things. So you could say, you know, maybe I still want them to be able to go to, the portal to be able to create a ticket, but I also want them to maybe go to my website. And then I want to put in my phone number as well. So you can manipulate the system tray icon on a policy level. Lastly, you can run scripts on a policy. So this first option is a one-time setup type of script. So a script running upon installation, maybe it's gathering information, maybe it's populating custom fields, that sort of thing. And then you have the ability to set up scripts on a schedule as well. So a very basic example, maybe you want every Friday night at midnight, the recycle bin cleaned. You could run a script on a schedule here. Okay, so that's kind of the last of policies. So again, if you have any questions, and then Nathan, if I just wasn't sure exactly how to respond to your question. So if you do have additional information, I'd be happy to address it. But it does manage Windows 10 machines and updates, and it's doing it very, very well. All right, so let's head up here. I want to talk about scripts. Our scripting engine is incredibly powerful. We give you quite a few scripts just by default, but we also have a community script library. So we do give you access to this. You have the ability, if there was a script that you would run often, you can just import that to your scripts. Once you've done that, it's now available to you to run on either an asset or a policy level. The other thing to mention here too, if you write your own scripts, you can do that right here within Syncro. So if you go to new script here, you can actually choose the file type. So you have these options here. I will mention PowerShell is the more robust option. And the reason I say that is not only it does have scripting variables available, they can be runtime variables or platform variables. And again, this is just highlighting another way that the RMM being embedded with the PSA is phenomenal. These platform variables can be anything from like a contact custom field. It's pretty incredible. And then in addition to that, I think the other reason that the PowerShell option is by far the most robust is you can actually import this module into your script. You could have a PowerShell script running that actually logs time in a ticket or adds a comment, closes the alert, clears the ticket. It's pretty intense. So I like to make sure I show that off for sure. And then a few other things that I definitely think are worth mentioning. If we head back over here to the assets in RMM and you go to actions, I for sure want to show you automated remediation. So I'll go ahead and just create a new one from here so you can kind of see what that looks like. So let's go ahead and add some conditions here. So if we said, let's say the trigger category, you have is not, or contains. I'm going to say is, and then let's say low hard drive space. Now, if you just left this condition as is, this is going to be global across all endpoints. You can add further conditions as well. So you might actually only want this automation to run if it was a workstation. If that's the case, you could say, now, once those conditions are met, this is what I want Syncro to do. It doesn't have to be in any sort of order, but let's just say, for example, this would constitute a ticket creation. You can even predefine all of these fields. You could then run a script. Maybe it's the script that cleans up temp files, logs time in the ticket, adds a comment, clears the ticket, or clears the alert, closes the ticket. I mean, there's so many steps that you would manually normally take that you can automate through automated remediation. So this is definitely a way. Once you dive into Syncro and you realize, this alert comes in and then I do this, and I realize that I'm doing this all day long, every day, head over to automated remediation and just totally streamline that process. Okay, let's see here. I think there's definitely some things worth mentioning in the admin section, but now is a good time to start flowing in some questions, because I'm going to just kind of highlight a few things here and then I'm going to open it up. So go ahead and get those questions ready. So from here, I do think it's definitely worth mentioning we have security groups. So this is a great way, to go in and you can very much have control over your users and what they have access to within Syncro. So you can create different security groups. You could have a different group for every technician if you wanted, or every user, and allow access to certain parts of Syncro. A similar design to that is our notification center. So this is where you can go in. Again, you can create different groups or a group for each user within Syncro, but this is where you decide how talkative you want Syncro to be. You can make sure you don't miss anything that's happening. So from here, you can go through these and you can choose what you want to be notified on. And if you want to be notified on it, you can choose how you want to be notified. So going through this section, or both of these sections actually, with kind of a fine-tooth comb is something I would for sure recommend. A couple other things here that I like to show off. Sergey, this is where this is your tabs customization. So this is where you can choose like what you want to see front and center. You can rearrange that and that sort of thing. But let's look at PDF and email templates. So, I mean, as you're going through this admin section, you can see right away that there are so many different areas that you can customize within Syncro. So this is worth highlighting, I guess, because not only can you customize the email that's going out to your customer that's letting them know that they have a new comment on their ticket, you can actually customize the ticket itself. So we give you, of course, something by default, but you can go in here, you can edit this template. It's a simple editor. You can go in here and you can really make this look exactly how you want. You can grab tags and drop them. You can get rid of certain sections. So just to mention, PDF and email templates is where you can go to really make sure your invoices and estimates, all of those things look the way you want them to. We do have awesome reports within Syncro, and we're adding new reports all the time. I'll go ahead and show you our customer RMM report just to show you what it looks like and then maybe some functionality with it. So if we go to Larry, let's just say month to date is fine. We'll run the report. Once you've run that report, you do now have the ability to run it on a schedule. So you could have this going out maybe the same day as the reoccurring invoice, or a week before or something like that. You can even customize and add text to the report if you want to make sure you're explaining what they're looking at or something like that. You do have the option to do that. But sending your customers reports as an MSP is definitely important. So we do try to make that as easy and as automated as possible, because it's certainly nice to be able to represent your value to your customers. So reporting section, I would for sure recommend kind of going through there. There's customer facing reports, efficiency reports, accounting reports. So just to mention, this admin section, if you start to scroll down here, you can see just what I mean by there are so many things that you can customize and you can set up so that that Syncro is functioning perfectly for your business. Okay, all right, so I'm going to take just a quick breath, but I think right now I would love to answer any questions that anyone has. I dive into any of these sections, clear up some areas if anyone has any questions. So again, Q&A or the chat box works just fine. But if anyone does have to head out now, I just wanted to make sure I said thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Glad to be the one to be able to introduce you to Syncro if maybe this is the first time you've looked at it. Let me grab two. We do have a landing page here too, and if Chelsea wants to remind me exactly what that can't remember what the link was. I was going to show you because we do have a discount going. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Here, I'll bring that up. There we go. So I was going to send you, if you want to head over to this site, if you have not already signed up for a free trial, you can do that here. And we are, offering a discount too as well for your group. We definitely appreciate the partnership. So thank you so much for your time today. And let's see here. kind of looking to see if I have any questions. What I'll probably do is just leave the room open just for a little bit longer. And again, this has been recording, so we'll be happy to send you a recording of this as well if you want to look back at it later. I will also, I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information in the chat box, so that if you do have any additional questions, I'm also happy to set up one-on-one demos or anything like that, if that would be helpful as well. So there's my email, because of course, once I end this webinar, you'll think of several questions. It always happens. So feel free to reach out there. But again, I will leave the room open for just a little bit longer if you do have any questions. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your day. Okay, thank you all once again. Have a great rest of your day.